Naomi had always sensed that the truth surrounding June's disappearance was far more sinister than what anyone had been willing to admit. For years, the community had whispered fragments of speculation, half-buried stories, and rumors that evaporated as soon as they were spoken aloud. Yet Naomi's instincts never failed her. She felt the weight of something concealed, something deliberately hidden by those who held power and influence in ways that reached beyond the ordinary lives of Fairmont Crest. It was not until she uncovered the evidence that confirmed Martin and Smitty's involvement in covering up the circumstances of June's vanishing that the fragile veil began to tear apart. The discovery was not just a confirmation of suspicion but the ignition of a storm that could shatter reputations, tear apart alliances, and destroy the illusion of safety that everyone clung to inside the gates of the wealthy enclave. The evidence was not simple. It came in fragments. Financial records, coded notes, surveillance images that had been erased and partially restored, hidden correspondence between Martin and Smitty that stretched back to the very night June vanished. Naomi pieced them together with painstaking precision, each fragment cutting deeper into the facade of loyalty that Martin and Smitty had constructed. What unsettled her the most was not only that they had concealed what really happened to June but also the lengths they went to in order to keep that truth buried. The timing of their actions, the deliberate misdirection, and the calculated manipulation of those around them suggested not mere panic or protection but a long-standing strategy designed to erase June from existence without leaving a trace. Naomi's mind spun with the weight of it all. Martin, the respected figure with polished charm, carried himself as if nothing could stain his reputation. To the outside world, he was a man of stature, power, and credibility. To Naomi, however, he had become the face of duplicity, smiling at neighbors while burying unspeakable secrets. Smitty was different, less refined, more erratic, but equally dangerous in his silence. The two had worked together, bound by something Naomi had yet to fully understand, but whatever it was had led to June's disappearance and the carefully orchestrated cover-up that followed. As Naomi edged closer to unraveling the full truth, she noticed the sudden shift in the atmosphere around her. People she thought she could trust grew strangely distant. Conversations stopped when she entered a room. Even casual glances from neighbors carried suspicion, as if they sensed she was carrying something too volatile to remain hidden. It was then, as the pressure reached a breaking point, that Smitty disappeared without warning. His vanishing was not the chaotic departure of someone fleeing in fear but the precise erasure of a man who knew the net was closing in. No one saw him pack. No one noticed his vehicle leaving, no messages were left behind. It was as if he had evaporated, dissolving into the void just as Naomi prepared to confront him with what she had learned. The timing was no coincidence. Naomi understood at once that Smitty's disappearance had been planned, perhaps by him alone, or perhaps orchestrated by Martin to ensure no loose ends remained. The absence of Smitty left a dangerous vacuum. Without him, Naomi could no longer determine who her real allies were and who was feeding her illusions in order to protect themselves. The uncertainty consumed her. Every face became suspect, every gesture felt staged. Martin continued to act as though nothing had changed, but Naomi could see the faint cracks forming beneath his mask. The faint tension in his voice, the sudden defensiveness when certain topics arose, the restless shifting of his gaze whenever June's name was even indirectly referenced. All of it betrayed a man terrified of what might surface. Without Smitty to share the weight of guilt, Martin was exposed, vulnerable, and unpredictable. That made him even more dangerous. Naomi's isolation deepened. Those who once offered her support now withdrew, claiming they could not be dragged into matters they barely understood. Yet she knew the truth was not only about June but about the corruption infecting the very core of the gated community. If Martin and Smitty had conspired to erase June, then who else had they silenced? Who else had been complicit, even if unknowingly, in preserving the illusion of perfection within Fairmont Crest? The walls that surrounded the community, once meant to represent exclusivity and safety, now felt like a prison built to contain secrets too poisonous to escape. Naomi's nights became restless, haunted by visions of June calling out from the shadows, urging her to press forward. She could not let fear stop her. The evidence was too strong, too incriminating to be ignored. But Smitty's disappearance signaled a warning: those who knew too much were destined to vanish. She wondered if she would be next. Every sound in the night, every shadow outside her window, felt like the presence of someone watching, waiting for her to slip. The closer Naomi came to exposing Martin, the more perilous her world became. Anonymous notes began appearing at her doorstep, warning her to stop digging. Strange voices on the phone whispered threats before the line cut dead. Her car was tampered with, forcing her to narrowly escape a near-fatal accident. These were not coincidences. They were orchestrated attempts to silence her, to ensure that the truth about June would remain buried with the ghosts of the past. But Naomi's determination did not waver. If anything, each attempt to intimidate her only strengthened her resolve. The fear that gnawed at her was real, yet so was the fire within her that demanded justice, not only for June but for herself. For too long, Martin and Smitty had controlled the narrative, weaving lies and erasing traces. Now, with Smitty gone and Martin growing desperate, Naomi held the one thing they could not fully control, the evidence she had collected, a mirror reflecting their darkest sins. Still, she could not escape the gnawing doubt that plagued her mind. With Smitty gone, Naomi no longer knew if she was standing alone in her quest or if unseen allies existed in the shadows. There were moments when she felt as if someone else was guiding her, slipping her subtle clues, leaving trails for her to follow. Yet she could not confirm whether this presence was friend or foe, protector or manipulator. Every revelation seemed to open a new layer of deception, each more treacherous than the last. Naomi pressed forward, knowing that the path ahead was fraught with danger. The walls of Fairmont Crest echoed with whispers of betrayal, each household hiding secrets that tied back, in some way, to June's vanishing. Martin moved through those walls like a predator circling its prey, aware that his time was running out but unwilling to surrender. And somewhere beyond sight, Smitty lurked, either in hiding or already silenced forever, a ghostly reminder of what awaited those who carried too much truth. Naomi was left in a world where the line between ally and enemy blurred until it was impossible to tell them apart. She carried the burden of evidence like a weapon, yet she knew that wielding it carelessly could trigger consequences beyond her control. The truth about June was within reach, but so was the threat of losing everything she had left. Each step forward was a gamble, each breath a reminder that she was standing at the edge of a storm that could consume her. And as the gates of Fairmont Crest loomed in the distance, silent and unyielding, Naomi understood that the real prison was not the walls around her but the secrets buried within them, secrets that someone would kill to protect.